Well, welcome everyone this is part 2 of session 5 of Around the World in 80 Animals. The second in the series, the first was Around the World in 80 Plants. It's really fun to do these. I just learn so much about the animals, and then it's fantastic practice for your quick sketching. And just to remind everyone, if you're new, I like to say that we are not trying to be scientific illustrators here. We're only spending like 15 minutes approximately on each animal. And so you're trying to capture the essence of the animal and not make a perfect scientific drawing. So we just relax and have fun and also focus on learning because we draw to learn. So as you're sketching things, think about the length of those legs. Why are they so long? Or that bill, why is that so huge? So we'll be really studying some things. So I'm going to jump right in. So this is part 2 of Africa. I'm Roseanne Hansen. Thank you for joining me. I'm the author of Nature Journaling for a Wildlife and Master of Field Arts, and I love teaching and sharing the joy of nature journaling. Our first stop, as we kind of move up the continent, although last time I couldn't help it, I had to do a northern species, but we're going to kind of move up, and our first cool species from Central Africa is this incredible crested crane, which is endangered and pretty much now only found in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda, and it is on the Ugandan flag. It's the bird of the country's birds. So they're tall, 1 meter, 3 feet tall, but with a huge wingspan, double that. So 2 meter wingspan, so 6 feet. But they only weigh about 7 pounds, as birds do. So they also have this incredible inflatable gular pouch. You see the red under their chin. And let's listen to what it sounds like. So so that's the male booming, and he is probably also doing bouncing, jumping displays, bowing, and attracting the female. She also will dance with him. So super cool. So let's get started on this. I put in this second photo because this one doesn't show how yellow the crown is. I think this was kind of washed out a little bit in the photo, so that's why I put in both, but feel free to sketch whichever one you want. Let me get organized here. And I think what I'm going to do is sketch my crane here. And remember, I want to mark where the feet are, just as a to get me going in the right, make sure my proportions are right. And so I'm going to, the head is going to be about here. I'm just going to mark that with a circle. And then I'm going to kind of want to get my first shapes in. And so really, I'm just going to do this plume shape very lightly. You can barely see it on my screen because I'm not going to sketch it in until I've really comfortable. And then I want to get that the body shape in. And then let's make sure we've got the legs right. So I'm doing proportions. I'm going to do like, okay, from mid back to, I'm using my measurement here, from mid back across to the plume edge is about the same width. It's about the same measurement as the legs are long. So from here to here, I want to make sure that's just about right, that distance there. So I'm okay with those legs. I'm just going to sketch in a tiny little bit there. Now, let's keep working on these plumes. Okay, so we want to make sure we've got this shape here. I've got another shape here. And then let's not forget, this is a separate shape here. So I'm just marking this in. We've got the white shape. Remember, we try to do shapes because it's a little easier to deal with that than trying to draw everything individually. Got a little wobbly there. I can correct that. All right, now I'm liking the proportions here. That's good. I'll refine that. Let's do the shape of the tail here. Because that'll help me place legs. And then I'm going to go up and start working on the head here. So we've got this very strong, let's just call this kind of a half circle. This will help us to draw this around the eye and up. So there's going to be this red, and then this is going to remain white. And then this is where the kind of his forehead puff comes out. And you're going to have his eye. And then the bill coming out right in that opening there. And just do a triangle for now. Don't worry about too much on the shape. Just want to get that marked in. Okay, that looks good proportionally. His crown, just do a dotted line and do a half circle, because it really does kind of follow that arch, like so. And I'm going to give this like some little slashes because it looks like the plumes have little dark ends. And that helps with that. And then let's not forget, I want to show that gular pouch here. But then the rest is all, it's got lots of feathers going on here. And these lovely big plumes coming out, which I'm just going to mark with some nice gray when I get to the paint. The leg, we want to bring, I'm going to mark this dark so I remember this is dark. Whoops, I did that wrong. Need to pull that white down just a little bit more. Now this is the dark. Okay, and we've got some feathers in there. I'm going to do a shape of his leg down to that kind of knobbly knee, if you will, and then down. And he's got he's sitting on a kind of standing on a log. So I'm just going to mark. We've got some toes, a little foreshortened. You can't really see the second one. It looks like it's bound behind. And then let's bring his other leg down. Again, we've got a little knobbly there. And it's slightly this way. And I've got a little more toe here. Let's move this up. You can even see the claw a little bit. This one comes over. This one down. Okay, I'm not going to get into too much detail here. Correcting that a tiny bit. Okay. I think we've got, kind of a good essence of Mr. Crowned crane here. But what I didn't do, that don't want a crested crane. It's a subspecies of the gray crowned crane. Let's get some information in here. So this is our number one. I'm going to crested crane. Oop. So you can see that. And the species is a long one. Oh my gosh. Alearica. Oof. Regularum. And haha. Gibiriceps. That's an interesting word. And this is an endangered. And this is pretty much restricted now to the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. They are 1 meter tall with a 2-meter wingspan. And with an inflatable gular, G-U-L-A-R, pouch, which is really cool. Pouch used for booming calls. In courtship. So I'm going to start some color on this. Won't be able to get super far, but I'm happy with the essence of the crane here. Remembering to reserve the white. It's such a hard thing to kind of plan ahead. I think one of the first things I'm going to do is try to get that red dropped in there before I go any farther. And I got to wake up my colors. But I think first, since I'm going to put some yellow down to help pull some red, I'm going to color this a little bit. It'll dry lighter. Now let's try to get some red here. There we go. So we've got, I just have to drop in the littlest bit of red right there. And let's get that gular pouch. And now I'm going to mix some gray. There's a lighter gray. Oh, I'm gonna water it down even more. Add a little bit more blue. And just barely stroke that in here. I can add more later, but it's impossible to take away if you put too much. So let's start with that, the lighter gray, feather shapes. And then I'm going to darken it a little. I can want to close those into more black farther on, but let's just get this in here. Gonna leave that for now so I don't wreck it. Get some leg action going. Feet. I'm going pretty quickly here because I think I need to move on soon. Where are we at? Yeah, I've got just a few minutes. Let me see what I can do. See if I can get a nice black. How's everybody doing? This is fun. It's so fun to just sort of dive into these guys, and I just can get lost in the feathers and all the fun bits. So um, I have to stop myself shortly. I'm letting this blend in a little bit. I can go back and fix that. But I'd better stop now because I need to move on, and I think I'm going to mess up if I go any farther. There we go, get his little top knot going. Nice. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna palette here. So we'll let this guy dry and come back and refine that. But that's a fun one. But let's move on to our next one. We want to do about 15 minutes per species. Okay. Now we're heading a little bit more toward East Africa. And this is a cool one. I love this guy. Is that crazy, that face? This is a shoebill. Balaniceps rex, a very large wading bird related to pelicans and herons. So it is in the Pelecaniformes family and inhabits tropical East Africa and swamps from South Sudan to Zambia. So it's really on that eastern strip. They're tall, like 140 some centimeters tall, say 50 inches, with a really huge wingspan, 7 feet to 8 feet, and 15 pounds or so. And what's really remarkable is that huge bill, and then the exposed culmen, it's called, the ridge along the top of the upper mandible. And that's a sizable uh, part of the bill, and important. It ends in a hook. So they stalk their prey in the water and grab it. And they will follow hippos, which is really fun. So let's see. Oops, back to that. And I think what we'll do is sketch him in here. Please remember, I cannot access the chat when I'm doing these. So if you have a question, please say so verbally. Let's now, I'm going to get the sketch laid in before I do my words. And what I'm going to do is, I love that face, so that's what I want to do. Okay, so his top is going to go here. So I want to kind of start the bill like so. So here's the center top of the bill. It's shaped, you're going to do this dip and then another dip like so. And then it goes, it's very wide and goes to about there. And let's check the proportions too. Make sure I didn't mess up the proportions. So looking at the proportions, that bill, I'm checking the width and then 1, 2. So from the middle of the eyes down, it's twice as long as it is wide. So checking here, 1, got that. And then I need to come down just a little bit more. Probably in the extension of the culmen there. And then when we want to add these eyebrows, let's get this shape in here. Eyebrows, if you will. This is what's going on here. You want to get that fluffy head thing going here. And then the eyes come in. We want to get that kind of, it's almost like a scowl, isn't it? So pull in those eyes like so. It's always so important to get those placed really well. And I'm going to pull that out just a little bit. You want to be sure to leave a little bit of that white shine, right? Didn't quite get that. I can add it back with white gouache. There, that one's a little better. See that? Get that scowl thing going. And then the fluffy bits kind of comes out like a rectangle about halfway down. Not rectangle, sorry, triangle. And then the neck. So going on these shapes, so kind of a triangle thing coming out to just above the eye. And then we've got these plumes. There we go. So I think that's approximating him pretty fun, pretty well. Got quite a bit of kind of scaly between under the eyes. And then let's get this culmen. Don't sketch it like super hard. It's not a hard line, but it's definitely raised. And then it broadens out and you get this tip, which is actually sharp. They use to stab, so. Fun. What a fun species. He's such a character, isn't he? Get these fluffies. And then when you add your watercolor or colored pencil, you can get in some of this feather action here. They all are kind of standing upwards on the head like so. And of course, you've got just maybe mark in a few of the plumes like so. So we want to remember to write, this is species 2. This is our shoebill. And Baleniceps rex. Ooh, cool name. So it's related to pelicans. And East Africa. In swamps. From, we'll say, South Sudan to Zambia. And it's a wading bird and stalks very slowly. I could have left that black in there and used it for the gray of our Mr. Pelican here. So that's fun. Let me just get some blue gray going, just using the dark blue, tiny bit of the burnt sienna. What I'm going to do is wet this first. And get a nice, some gray going. So I can drop in a little bit more texture. How's that looking? That's looking pretty good. We've got, want to get this filled in a little bit more. Now his eyes are just a touch bluer than the gray. Oof, that's turned a little bit too blue. There, I think that'll work. And I gotta get some gray around the eyes. Might better let that dry a little better first. so I don't wreck the blue. And then I'm going to throw in this kind of peachy bill thing going. Not a very dark color. I kind of want a dirty peach. And I'm just going to paint the whole thing, and then I can go in later and overlay with the grays. Trying to get these hard edges are bugging me, so whoops. So that will dry a little lighter, and then I'll be able to go in and emphasize the areas that I want, add some the gray and details, but I'm going to need to let that dry. I also need to turn that page. Oh, I didn't quite get that. There we go. So dry quickly. Nice. Well, where are we going next? That's good. That was a 15-minute. And so I'll go in and, I can add the darks and the shadows and some more detail and really make him pop a little better. But I think he's turned out kind of cute. So let's carry on. Taking a sip of tea here. Where are we heading next? Oof, we're going to keep going east, this time more up into the Horn, and a really cool animal. This is the Gerenuk, and it is a very unusual antelope in that it stands on its hind legs to browse. So only the males have the horns, so that's a beautiful male on the left there. And they live in small herds, unlike a lot of the antelopes, usually members of the same sex. Some of the males will lead a solitary life, only coming in to breed and leave. So they feed on the trees, shoots, herbs, flowers, whatever, but they love acacia, and they will stand erect on their hind legs and can reach up as much as 6 feet. So it's crazy to see them out browsing like that. Let me see how my page is doing, and we will, yeah, that's pretty damp. So I think I'll put our antelope here, so I'm not over that damp spot. One of the drawbacks of doing the big watercolor like that. So what we want to do is, well, let's see. I don't want to just, I think I think I do want to put him down here. Because I want to bring a tree in on the side. So here you're seeing let me get my book situated. There you can see, I want to bring the tree here and have him standing here. I think that's going to work better. So I think I can do it. So here's the grass. And you want to, sort of estimate, okay, how tall are we going to make this? And then let's get our proportions right. So I'm going to say about there for the nose, like that. Then I think the best way to start is, let's just draw kind of a triangle that represents, those are the tips of the ears and the nose. Okay, that's not the whole head, but that helps me sort of get some proportions going. So if I look at that triangle there, it's about the same, that triangle and his long neck are going to come down about the same distance. I'm talking about the triangle of base of the ears to the nose. So coming down, then I'm going to do a kind of a oval shape for that belly placement, and then another oval for that rear hindquarter placement. See that? And I think that's working pretty well, proportionally. This is really weird to draw, isn't it? So let's go up and shape in the head. So it's going to be like a, so you've got your nose coming up here. Okay, and her, this is female, her head like this, and then these big ears coming out like so. That's how we're getting our triangle going there. See that? And the dark tips of the ears, like so. And she's got kind of a dark top of her head, got a little eye, and the nose, barely up there. So then let's bring this neck down and make a little bit more of a head there. And find that shape of the shoulders. You want that kind of shape right there, because this is where this upper foot comes up, where she's actually holding the branch down with her hoof here. So we'll draw in these branches. And I'm just going to sort of make up a structure of a tree. Don't try to draw the exact tree unless you have like the perfect represent, like space on your page. I think that would be too hard. But feel free to do as much or as little as you like. So this has got big thorns. And we've got some other branches. Don't go too wild on that. We want to finish her. Her other foot is probably just sort of held up out of the way, so you're not seeing that. So we got the swoopy tummy here, her thigh, if you will, a hindquarter coming down like that. Right over her, like her head is right over that foot for balance, right? So then we've got her little butt here, her tail coming down, her other hindquarter, and her other leg there. Swoop that in. And she's got that lovely little stripe going. Very, very strange proportions, but it works. That is our Garanuk, and they are strange. So I think we can get kind of a dark head and dark markings like so. And this real strong stripy thing.
Hey, Roseanne, would you be able to zoom in on the head just for a moment?
Yeah, there you go. She's really got quite a
Thank you.
skinny nose. I didn't quite get that. Thank you. Yeah, there we go. So like I want to pull that. Remember, their eyes are on the edges of that, like so. Yeah, that helped a lot, didn't it? And so I want to make sure I get my this is number what are we on, 3? 1, 2, 3. This is our Garanuk. And Oh, there's the other hoof. Nice. I should have zoomed in earlier. That's kind of going to be, I'm probably going to, that's going to be weird to draw in there. So you know what? I'm going to skip it, but you can see where it is there. So feel free to sketch that in. I'm just going to skip it for now because I think that editing sometimes works. So let's get the species name, Litocranius. And this is Walleri, so I use only images from open source, like Wikipedia or unsplash.com. So sometimes it's really hard to find really good, easy to sketch images because you should only use images that either you took yourself, you got from a friend, or that you can get from these free sources, which is important. So that's why sometimes some of the photos are like meh. All right. So what about Gurnix? It is an East African antelope. Small herds, which is fairly unusual. Only 2 to 6 ish of same sex. And they browse by standing upright. Up to 6 foot reach. And then the colors here are going to be pretty, very African. They're just very much this shades of the burnt sienna. I like to get that grass. I take a pure yellow and actually just dirty it up with the burnt sienna to try to get that lovely mellow dried grass that we get there and in southern Arizona. See that? Also, of course, happens to be the base color of our species because it's a good camouflage. So if I really water that down a bit, I'm going to use that as my first wash. They do have some very light markings around the nose. I didn't do a close enough to probably fit that in. Can go wash it in maybe later if we want. But this first wash is, then on top of that, I will put more of the burnt sienna, but you can, this camouflage shows nicely. And they have white tummies, but her belly isn't showing that. The one behind it is. So you can see how you use the burnt sienna to sort of give that more definition. And I'm really gonna lay it along that line there. I'm gonna leave that for now, come back later to do some more darks. Yeah, I think we're getting there. And it looks like that's a whistling thorn acacia, really cool acacia with big balls in it. And the balls, I think we drew that on the around the world in 80 plants. The balls under the thorns house ants. It's really cool. All right, we're moving on. We're doing well, like 15 minutes now per. Where are we going next? Well, we're going to start going east before we go north. And this is such a cool tortoise. So that is not a broken shell. This is, I'm going to diminish my little picture here. This is the forest hingeback tortoise. It is a threatened species native to the rainforests of sub-Saharan Africa. And what's super cool about this guy is that is indeed a hinge. When threatened, he pulls in all of the front, but can also suck his legs and rear end in and close that rear plastron to pretty much seal himself in a ball and make it really hard for predators to grab in there and, grab a leg or the nether bits and have a snack. So 90-degree downward hinge on the rear of the back, which is super cool. They're swimmers. They dive in rainforest water bodies to search for food. And you don't see them often because they hang out in the daytime in under roots and logs by the water, and they are threatened because of rainforest clearing and the bush meat trade. So unfortunately, threatened. So let's see. We're going to make our tortoise up here. And let's see. You can draw whichever one you want or both. I'm going to draw, since I really like the this showing such an unusual habit of this species. I'm going to draw the closed shell. I won't have time to draw two, but you could do both. So what I'm going to do is the shape here. Okay, it comes around. All right, and this is where the hinge is. Just trying to show that very flat. There we go. And then this part, you can see the under parts a little bit. I haven't quite got that. There we go. Probably not going to successfully get every single platelet drawn correctly, except this one. Want this to come up this line here. There we go. And then these are flared and overlap a bit. I'm just gonna kind of go really sketchy on this part. Okay, could get really lost in the wonderful shapes here, and then I would be here for the rest of the morning. So I'm just want to get this roughed in here. Kind of octagonal. There, I think that helps. So what I'll do is mark that here's the hinge. And here we have feet pulled in. And the head and feet are pulled in here. And this is our, oh, I should have put that title first, shouldn't I? Because this is a bit of a mouthful. So this is our number 4. Forest hinge back. And it is a tortoise. And the Kinixis. Arosa. Threatened species. Pretty much native to the rainforests of sub-Saharan Africa. And then, well, we've got the bits about the hinge, and I think that's probably it. The size, I forgot to put the size in. This is not a big tortoise, but they're heavy. So we'll have to look up the size. But you can tell that's a good adult that Kenan is holding there. So I would call it about 10 inches, 10 to 12 inches. Okay. And I'm going to throw in a wash of kind of that golden color again. Much more yellowy. As the basis, and then I can, so that'll be the underlayer. And so I can leave some of that yellow showing as I add the more golden brown. And you can see they vary quite a bit, just how much abused and used they are. This one has some nice, I'm gonna make a more rich brown rather than the burnt sienna. There we go. The one in the top is dry. The one in the bottom has been just pulled out of a water. It's not quite as rich as I wanted. Pull that. I'm gonna mix my brown a little better. I have more red in it. Because when I lay it on that yellow, it's going to make it not quite as rich. Let's see what happens. Hard to get that shiny wet look here. I would have had to do something a little different, so that's all right. It's going to take me multiple passes to get the color the way I want it on this guy. And it's going to be messy at first. I'm going to have to work through it. Yeah, very messy. That's all right. I'm going to let that dry and come back and rescue it later.
Roseanne,
Yes,
you said to ask questions verbally.
absolutely.
Okay, this is Tina in Maryland. Loving this. One of the reasons I was so drawn to this exercise in the series is you capture so many animals so quickly, and I fuss too much and spend too much time trying to capture the right angle of the curve, let's say from the tortoise neck
Yes.
underneath the carapace going over. Do you have any exercises? I know it's always measure, observe, check your drawing, measure, observe, but are there any recommendations you have for those of us that take too long to set up the drawing? And I'm just a small sketchbook as per your recommendation. Any exercises or warm-ups you recommend?
Well, I think that, I'm afraid, comes with more practicing letting go of wanting to spend too much time is just something we all do. And what really helps me is literally the timer. Like right now I look down and it's like, you know what, I got to move on. And maybe giving yourself more of that push is what we need. The tortoise is very hard to draw because of the geometry, all those plates. So definitely, give yourself a break on that. But I would not try to replicate every single plate exactly. We're not doing a scientific illustration. So get the shape. I think I'm going to have to, repair some of my watercolor. I went way too detailed on the watercolor. I should have just done a more generic look because I'm not doing a perfect rendition. So I'll be anxious to see how others handled this one. So I think just keep telling yourself, get the main shapes, get the main features, and then take some notes and move on. I think that is the best way.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's really just takes a lot of practice and time doing that. So our next species is super interesting. This one will be a little easier. This is adorable. This is the pygmy hippopotamus, sadly endangered, native to the forests and swamps of West Africa and pretty much now only Liberia, by loss of habitat and, of course, the bushmeat trade. So they're not that big as, as hippos go, only about 4.5, 5 feet, maybe 6 feet long, up to 500, 600 pounds. So basically a quarter the size of their larger cousin. There are only 2 hippo species. They're very reclusive and nocturnal herbivores, and they rely on water to keep their skin moist and their body temperature cooled down. And all hippos scent mark when they're out of the water by when they poo, their tail literally does a whirligig thing and it just sprays poo everywhere. And yeah, we were camping once in a camp where we didn't realize hippos came up at night and they went running through our camp, spraying poo, and it covered our tent. So that was fun. So this one will be not quite as challenging as our little, let me get this set up here. Sorry about the camera. There we go. Now, I'm going to put Mr. Hippo down here. A little easier because first thing I want to do is okay, where am I putting the ground? Because the relationship of where his schnoz is going down, browsing, he's grazing, and the feet, I want to make sure I get that. So the first thing you want to do is let's get that one big shape roughed in, leaving space for the head and neck, which is bigger than you think. So there's our potato. There's our hippo potato. And then let's just rough in it's kind of a rectangle with maybe an isosceles-ish, the neck. And then the head, it's going to have 2 parts here. I just want to feel this out, this more round part, and then the schnoz part. And don't worry about what it's looking like right now. We just want to get proportions and shape. So let's measure. Oh, I'm going to turn my camera back on. Remember to measure. So I'm doing from the shoulder to the nose. Well, it's not the shoulder, it's kind of the base of the neck, if you will, the first big crease down to the nose. And that is pretty much 3/4 the length. So from here to here, I want to make sure, yeah, that's just about right, about 3/4. So even though that looks like way too long, I think it's about right. But what I didn't get right is his nose is going down a bit more toward the ground. So I need to pull this down and give it more of a, there's his cheek. There, I think I'm a little happier with that. Comes up, there's a bump. Then feel that very smooth back going down. There, now we want to place these feet. Now, have I got enough belly? No, I think I need a little bit more belly. So Tina, I hope you're kind of feeling these shapes a little easier than the tortoise. If you just move fairly quickly, then that should be a little easier. You see how I got this shaped in here? And then
Mhm.
we want to get, let's zoom in. Sorry, I should have zoomed in a little bit more so we can get a little more detail there. We'll work on some more of the fat bits. These actually come down a little bit more than, see that? I didn't quite get that right. It's wider than I gave it. And you got your, kind of do a triangle for that leg comes up like so. And this foot is planted quite firmly there. They have 3 toes. And this other one is kind of like taking a bit of a step. So you've got your toe down, heel there. And just going on shapes here. So the rear's coming down. Let's do a, remember to get this shape in. Their legs are so strange. You'd think they'd be a lot fatter for such a heavy beast, but they're in the water a lot. All right, so if you can make sure you're muted, folks, that'll help quite a bit. Getting some scrubby sound. Don't sweat the toes too much at this point. And don't forget a little bit of a tail showing there. And now let's make sure we place that ear properly. You can just barely see the other one peeking up here. And the eye, there's your eyebrow there. So the eye here. Got big, pretty brown eyes, doesn't he? And then the nostril. And don't, the mouth isn't open on this one, but you can sort of guesstimate there. So I like the proportions. I think we're pretty good. Yeah, I think that's, I would call that good and not sweat it too much. And let's get our, so this is number 5. The pygmy. Hippo. Are we going to do the full hippopotamus? Make sure I spell it right. That would be an epic misspelling, right? If you didn't. There we go. And you could do the smiley one too. That one's fun. So they are endangered, sadly. And we're talking West Africa, pretty much Liberia. And 1/4 the size of the common hippo. That's not really its name, but we'll call it that. And so that's about let's just call it 400 to 600 pounds. And we'll call it like, 5 to 6 feet long. Now, the color of their skin is interesting. So we're going to do kind of a purpley brown. That's going to be a fun one. And I want to go really light on the top as I go in and try to approximate that wet-ish look. It'll be a challenge, won't it? Okay, so I'm making a purple right now with a dark blue with more red in it. Then, because it's more maroon, I'm going to drop in my dark brown, the burnt sienna, and I think that starts getting where I want to be. So let me I'm going to use very light here. Basically, just want to get this colored in so I don't have too wet there. Too many hard lines. Like that. So you want to work wet and wet if you don't want to have hard lines. So then I'll drop in. See, I even got a hard line already there. I'm just working real fast here. And I can make several passes to darken. Try not to get it too dark with those hard lines. It's very dry in Tucson right now, so everything's drying instantly. And this is fairly light paper. It's only 90 pounds. So it's wanting to dry almost instantly. But you see how we're going to work this. I'll let that dry, and then I can come back and darken, get rid of some of those.
Do you have any techniques to capture the speckly makeup?
Yeah, you could with maybe even an old brush. You could go in when it's almost dry. And when I say an old brush, then you can take your brush and like an old flat brush and maybe even, just really separate it out. Oops, there, separate it out. Get some highly pigmented paint and stipple it in. I might try that. It would, you would have to see how it looks at the scale you drew. You wouldn't want to do it if you drew it very, very small, because it really wouldn't show up. I'm just seeing if I would get any benefit from. See how I did there, like so. That's a little bit too light colored, but I wanted to show, you can, that can be blended in. But that's how you might want to do that. I'm going to leave him to dry those, so we can go on to our next species, but you can see how that's going to work. Let's see if I got a little bit of a hard line here.
Roseanne, could you explain what the bushmeat trade is?
Sure, yeah, it's pretty insidious. It's basically, people in Africa don't have money to buy meat that is from a grocery store. There aren't grocery stores pretty much. In rural Africa, there's little shops, but not not like we have. And so meat, just animals are killed, doesn't matter which animal, and just sold in the markets as meat, and it doesn't say what it is. So, and it's pretty much wiping out huge amounts of wildlife because it's cheap and easy to get. Does that explain it?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
All right, so now we're heading up into the deserts, and some of my favorite species. This little guy is adorable. This is the fennec fox, and it is native to the deserts of North Africa. And those gigantic ears, and we're going to get a nice lesson in proportions. Those gigantic ears are used to dissipate heat, so the blood flows, up their head through their ears. It's like little evaporative coolers. And then also for listening for their prey. So that is why they have such gigantic ears. So they're only like 15 inches long. These are like cat-sized, house cat-sized. And they're, gosh, what are they, like 4 pounds max? So 2 to 4 pounds. And there's a lot of like, you'll see things on the internet. It'll say, oh, they don't need to drink any water at all. Well, no, they get their moisture from their prey, rodents and things like that. And then they'll drink water when they find it, but they don't have to have it all the time. So let's draw. All right, I'm cleaning up over here because I forgot to clean up before we jump in. Okay. I think I can pull, now I'm gonna have to just turn off my camera for the moment because I want to put the fox here. Now, you want to get your proportions right. So we're going to go slowly here. I'm going to do the portrait because I love that face, but anyone wants to do the full fox, please do. It was very hard to find good photos of these guys. So that's one of the challenges. So the first thing I want to do is sketch in. I'm going to do very lightly. I'm going to sketch in the ears.
We can't see the
Hmm?
pic. Oh, okay, wait. No,
Yeah, I
didn't
think,
realize-
yeah, I think it might be your view.
Yeah, I didn't realize I can actually move things around. Okay.
Yeah, especially if you're on an iPad. Okay, I'm right now. I just want to make sure, like, get these ears going first, and then I'm going to check my proportions before I commit. Because if you measure, again, I'm holding out I'm measuring one ear from the tip to the base is the same length as from the top of his head to the tip of his nose. So this measurement here basically, get this, I need to make sure, I'm going to go, so the tip of his head is back here. So let me see what works best. So from here to about here. This is where I want his nose. And this is the back of his head there. So just double checking this. Yeah, that works. So now I can work a little bit more on the shape, and I'm keeping this fuzzy because he's got fuzzy ears. So I'm not committing to super strong pencil lines. And he's got this dip in the ear there. Okay, and then got this coming down, this one, pull this ear up. This one flares out. Got that loop there. And then I'm just going to mark, don't try to draw every hair, but you need to indicate those furry bits. And of course, his the depth of the ear. But those furry bits are really important to keep sand and things out of his ears. You know, burrs from trees, things like, or from shrubs or weeds, things like that. So, all right, now, next thing we want to do is get that triangle shape. So there's around it, I'm going to very softly. There's his rounded eye area here. Softly, softly. I'm feeling out these shapes here. But it forms a bit of a triangle. Before I totally commit to his eye, I'm going to come down. Here's that beginning shape. The eye comes up here. Got a little cheek. Oh, I don't like the placement of that. It's not quite right for this. I think I've got the cheek a little too far out. So let me go with more of this triangle shape, and then I'm going to soften it. You see that? I don't really want that line in there, but that's helping me visualize. And then the eye, I want it right below the middle of the ear. Your eye placements are super important. A little bit closer together. And I'm just feeling these out as I go. Because this pulls down and is going to form the nose. Now he's want to get that nose. Like so. You see how I'm filling that out? Get that little doggy face going. Get the whiskers. This is a true canid. It is a fox, smallest fox in the world. The features are just crazy. The proportions are difficult. But fluffy eye coming out here. This ear comes in a little closer. And a very narrow face. And you can pull just a little bit of marking there. And then this side starts yay there and kind of tapers. And get that eyeball, the round, very round. That's working. And we've got it's actually a little bit deeper. This is kind of, you've got some fur going here. And we can just suggest his back and that there. I think the eye's just a tiny bit bigger, but I'm not going to mess with it right now. We've got our I think I'm going to bring these down just a little bit. And see how he's got the fur makes some whorls. I think that's getting there. I could noodle him forever and probably wreck it. So I think I'm going to stop at this point. This eye could be a little bit bigger, but I'm not going to mess with it at the moment. His nose is a little bigger. And boy, the color on this, we've got some pink. Oh, I need to write in who he is. Oh, I didn't leave a lot of space. I'm going to end up having to write over his ear. That is so hard when I have to do that. So this is number 6. It's our fennec fox, or just fennec. And this is Vulpes zerda. And so it's the smallest fox. And we'll say up to 15 inches without the tail. And just 2 to 4 pounds. Ears release heat. And listen for prey. Well, no, I would draw like a line here because I don't like how close those got. So I think I would also probably bring his ears up just a tad. That helps. So we've got just refining the sides of the ears just a little bit. Okay. Pink. To get some of that pink in there. but just a bare wash really. Because I want to preserve that white too. So dropping in some clear. And I'm just going to get the barest. Pink just in those upper parts and these little indents here. Let that dry. Now, there's that sand color again. So I've got my bright yellow, but I want to really knock that back like so. That's almost like not even, I want it even blonder. Blonde is a good term. But part of his face is also got, you know, like little, I don't like to say white, it's not really white, it's just very pale. I think they vary quite a bit. They can be very, very pale or even more of this russet color. I'll let that dry so I can come back later. You know, the edges of the ears are sort of a combination of the russet and the blonde or almost pale. I like the burnt sienna because it's really easy to move around. Oh, come on, focus on the page. So I'm gonna have to work on some very pale shadow in here to pull that white hair out. So I'll come back and work on that and get his dark chin, his little mouth in there too, and get the pen and get his whiskers. But I think we'll wait for now. I like that as a start because we need to carry on to our next species. Really cool. And this next one is even cooler. And let's see. There we go. So we're continuing into the deserts. And this one is super cool. So this is on the right, a hunting Sahara sand viper. And this is how they bury themselves. Courtesy the Phoenix Zoo. Is that so cool? This is how they hunt. Until they're pretty much disappearo. And will sometimes leave their tail up as a lure. They'll wiggle their tail. And in this photo, you can almost see where I think right here might be where the tail is. And they would wiggle it, it's black. So you can see it there. So it'd be fun. I'm going to draw it in the sand. A little more challenging, but it's fun. Because that's really what, actually it's not challenging. Less is going to be more on this one. So what we're going to do, oops, is first of all, nope, there we go. Get this set up properly. Nope. Let me get my camera correctly zoomed for you. All right, so easiest way to do this. Oh, let me zoom in here. Oh, well, about them. First, let me tell you about Cerastes vipera. They are endemic to North Africa and the Sinai. Not very big, only up to about 14 inches. In the females are larger. They are very venomous, but there's no known human deaths. And as we said, they ambush using the tail as a lure, but very unusually for snakes, they will also actively hunt, usually before hibernation, and their prey are geckos and lizards. So what I'm going to do is start with the head. Actually, already starting over. Okay. I just want to barely get in the shape here. And they have kind of a spatula head. And you want to mark where those eyes are. So here's kind of where the eye socket is. Come down. You're going to have this nose like that, and then eye socket. So
I would be so dead if it were hunting me. Where is it? I don't see it on the photo.
right here.
Okay, thank you.
See, here's what one looks like there. And there's one there. So that's the head, the only thing you can see.
Thank you.
Roseanne, I wrote in the chat, how do humans avoid stepping on them with their cryptic patterning and behavior?
Oh, good question. Well, these probably occur where there aren't very many humans. And I can also imagine that since they're very small and their prey is geckos and lizards, that if you stepped on one, well, A, you might kill it, and B, they're not going to strike you. You're not its prey.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Maybe that's, I'm just guessing how pit vipers work. I'm just going to approximate scales here. Not really, that placement didn't work on that. In the photo, his other eye is, it's almost looking straight down, but I didn't end up drawing it that way. So I'm just going to be less. Hard to get that second eye correct. Mine is a little bit more oblique looking here. So then what we would do is let's just start drawing the snake shape that where it's buried. So you're just want to barely scratch here. And I suspect that's his tail there, but I'm not going to sketch that in. Still noodling this second eye. Just didn't quite get it right. He ended up with an eyelash. Get this kneadable eraser to a point, get rid of that eyelash. So then when we sketch it in, oh, he's gonna, or with the watercolor. So that's the shadow. I don't know if you can see, I'm just doing a tiny bit of stippling, but you know, you could stipple forever to get the sand. You just don't need to. So this is our Saharan sand viper. I'm going to write across the top here. So this is number 7. And it's Cerastes, ooh, vipera. And we can put some little facts over here, endemic to the Sahara. And it's only 8 to 14 inches and ambush predator. Of geckos and lizards. And it buries itself in sand to hunt. So we want to leave our viper pretty. I'm not going to color it yet. I'm going to do some coloring on the sand around it. Ooh, I hope I'm leaving enough. I'm worried the ink is not quite dry, so I want to be careful not to hit my sketches yet. And I'll go in with color to create more of the shadows. Oh yeah, see the lizards there wasn't dry. Oh, let's see, is this gonna? That worked. Yeah, well, that's still wet, hopefully. I'm gonna go in and create some ridges. Now, how do we get some color on him without turning it too much? I mean, it's camouflage, right? So I'm coloring a little. I think the eyes are pretty much white. This one, I think, is a natal, so it doesn't have its proper eyes yet. So this is a baby. But look at those. Yeah, they're just basically sand colored. So I can't do much with that. It's basically just camo colored. Don't like that's too yellow. He's just basically the sand color. So with a little pale around the cheeks. So I'm going to approximate the scales like so. Oh, come on. And see, that's going to dry kind of mottled. And I can go in with maybe a light pen. And see how that dries. You can see it's still pretty wet. Yeah, I think I'll leave that now. This dried pretty pale, so I will emphasize a little bit more shadow after it dries. And we have our final species. We didn't do too badly on time this time. It's always a challenge. I definitely set. Oh, I just got my keypad wet, so hold on. I hope it doesn't do anything weird here. I'm wiping it off. Okay. Our final location. Where are we going? Oh, we are heading up the Sinai, well, the Red Sea, to the Gulf of Aqaba. And this time we are going underwater and looking at the Red Sea coral, which this is so cool. I just loved learning this part. So in the Gulf of Aqaba, in the northern Red Sea, they've discovered the coral native to that area can withstand very high temperatures. In fact, I believe it was almost 40, let's see, it was like 37 degrees Celsius. So 7 degrees higher they could withstand if the ocean temperature rose, meaning that they could survive the global warming that is on the way. So backing up, so coral polyps are soft-bodied organisms that together form the reefs. And then tiny algae called zooanthellae live inside the coral tissue, creating the color. It's a symbiotic relationship. So in return for getting a home, the zooanthellae provide most of the coral's food and nutrients. but rising temperatures, such as in the Great Barrier Reef, what's happening there, heat kills those zooanthellae. And it turns, they leave, they die off, and that's what they call coral bleaching. It turns white. So coral reefs are super important, even though they're a tiny portion of the ocean. They support 25% of all marine life, including 4,000 species of fish. But globally are in massive decline, and it's expected they'll probably be 90% dead by 2025 if we don't do something. Excuse me, 2050, if we don't do something. So at King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, they are taking this heat-resistant coral, growing it in artificial environments, and replacing coral in other areas that are dying off. These coral can withstand the higher temperatures, so they're hoping to restore coral reefs that are dying, which is so cool. I had no idea this was going on. So let's draw that beautiful coral. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use a bounding box so I don't go bonkers all over the place. And I'm going to just pull out some colorful bits here. And do I have time to like make an exact and perfect representation? No, I don't. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do the yellow lumpy coral here. This is my kind of where I'm going to draw that. I'm kind of doing just a paint by numbers at this point. And then I'm going to mark some of these other round dotted. I will fill those in. I'm not going to get too crazy here with form because I'm going to use the color to differentiate things here. And remember, I'm only doing a 15-minute sketch, so I can't really, be super crazy here. I'm going to put that purple in there. And then I'm just going to, at this point, leave this open. I'm not going to try to draw the vanishing bits going back for this scale. I think that would be too much. I think I'll add in one of these bright fishes. Let's see, we'll do a like so. Maybe I'll do an orange one as well, I'm not sure. And let's just, kind of fill that in. Now, here, I want to get some of this shape. Can I go in and replicate this exactly? No, I don't have time, but feel free to spend as much time as you want. I'm trying to get the general overall shape. And then I'll come back and use my color to pop that. And then also later I'll be adding shadows and things. So how this works, and mine's pretty small, so if you have a larger notebook page, you can do a lot more. So I'm going to do just sort of a blue aerated background, because of course this is got surf coming over it, so there's a lot of bubbles. So I'm going to drop in pretty wet, so it kind of does that, lots of white as well. Remembering to reserve my fishy. And now I need to remember to do my, I want to do my magenta here so I don't forget. And I'm getting it wet because I want it to bloom. So I'm going to wait for that to be just the right wetness. Come on. Of course, when I want it to dry fast, it doesn't. I'm going with pure magenta on this. So I'm going to see how I'm dropping it in. I'm wanting it to bloom. And leaving white space that I'll probably come in and try to throw some darks in there to emphasize the color after it dries. So that's working. Hopefully that will stop bleeding, not do too much. So there's always a trick between getting just enough pigment and not too much water. Let's get this mustardy yellow thing going. So let's see how this, I can just pretty much color this in because what I'll do is go back later with darks to create the shapes. And I don't want to get too close to that and kill it. So interesting just to be using all these bright colors now, after doing all those, Saharan sand and African species colors. And then we've just got, oh, there's more of that. Well, I've got that yellow there. I've got some out here. Let's make this that as well. And then I can add the other colors. So I've got some random, just going to do some random pinks. And then some dark blues. I'm making these colors fairly wet. See that? So they, oh, hoping they don't bleed too much. And this will take me a while to kind of build out. So there's some peach in there. Creating some peach right now. So you can see how I'll kind of work on this. It'll be the darks that really make it pop. But I think we'll get there and it'll be really fun. Oh, and I'll kind of hit him with some bright yellow. Decided not to do the orange and do that beautiful little yellow guy. Okay, that is fun. Oh, let's remember the final thing we do is to label our work. Always easy to forget. But this is number 8. This is our Red Sea coral, which the species there are 7 species. So it's Porites lobata and 6 other species. And this is coral that can withstand 7 degrees Celsius plus rise in sea temperatures. And they are being developed, or let's say grown to repair dying reefs in other parts of the world. So when we add darks, that'll really make that pop. And of course, I'll fix my bounding box. So that was super, super fun. We learned a lot, and thank you guys so much for coming. I am so appreciative. If you have time, if anyone wants to share, I will come back in just a second, but as always, these are free, so I appreciate the tip jar. I'm dropping that in the chat right now, which I forgot to do. And there we go. And who wants to share? I'm going to go to gallery view. Use the raise hand feature. I'd love to see what everybody came up with. These were fun. Anyone want to share theirs? Valerie, thank you. Let me spotlight you. Where's oh yeah, you had to, sorry, the
There.
yeah, I can't spotlight you till the video came on, so there we go. Okay, there we go. Okay.
Kind of got a late start, so I didn't do the first one, but I did do Mr.
Yay.
Spoonbill, which I think I think Zoo Atlanta has Spoonbill.
Oh,
Or
so,
shoebill.
shoebill.
Oh, storks. Yes, that's what I mean.
I said it wrong.
They may also have spoonbills, which I guess are a totally different kind of bird. Then I just kind of did
Oh,
gesture
nice.
clips. My favorite. I was so glad you did the hingeback tortoises. I just love them. So he was my best effort, I think.
Nice. They were so new to me. I thought it was so fun.
Yeah, they've also been in the pet trade for many years, and most of them die. So that's another contribution to their being,
Oh,
decline. That hingebacks were cheap tortoise pets back in the 90s, and I think people are importing them again, a different species though. But there's my
nice.
fennec, hippo, and then
Oh yeah, good job on the dropping in the darks on the viper.
yeah, I didn't have. I just had my tiny little mini palette here, and I didn't have
Yeah.
anything that did magenta, so I just kind of.
That's good. Look great. Well done. Thank you. Okay, let's see. We've got Christina next. Thanks, Valerie. Nice. Well done. Let's see. Lower.
So these.
Nice. Oh, well done. I like the portrait of the shoe bill. Really good. Ah, really nicely
It
done.
looks really stern,
Yeah.
kind of dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I like the way you
Oh.
placed that. That's great. The Garanuk is wonderful. Boy, the proportions, you nailed the proportions. Really good.
And then a
Fun.
snake that you can't see.
Exactly. Nicely done. Well done. And the coral takes some doing. It's going to take layers and layers of
Yeah.
darks. I think that's a big challenge, but I think we'll keep working on it. Well done. Thank you. Anyone else? We'll keep working on your pages and send them in to me or put them on the community forum. If you send them by email, I'll put them on the website. So I'll post the recording when I get that done, probably later today, because tomorrow all day long is the Nature Journal Educators Workshop. So I'll be running that. So I better get it done today. All right. I think we're going to do, I think it's May 25th. You can tentatively mark that date for the next one. I will send that out when I know for sure. May's a very busy month. So well done, everybody. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I might see some of you tomorrow.